Well, hey, and hello, guys, and hello, Callista. Joining us tonight is Callista, and she's done a stellar job over the last 3 weeks or so, especially while I was making my way back to North America and getting used to the Canadian way of life, eh? It's been an interesting journey, I have to say. But how about you guys? How are you guys doing? Bill?
Hanging in
I'm
there. Is it Bill or Phil?
Bill, B-I-L-L.
Okay, bravo.
Okay.
I'm the same as always, but I'm just getting very tired of putting up with all this stuff, and I would like to wake up tomorrow morning and have it be January.
Or at least November 4th.
Well, I think it's going to get worse after November 4th for a short while.
Right.
yeah.
Excellent. And
Whoops.
Phil, how are you doing? I hear you were off in the mountains and having a good old time in the mountains there.
Yeah, I did, and it's interesting. I spent close to 18 years living in Lake Tahoe, and that place was my paradise. So when I moved off the mountain back to lower elevations with the kind of suburban way of life, it was a bit of an adjustment. Where we went last week, and why I was unable to go on the show, was a very remote area that it's one of the few places you cannot get cell phone reception. So I wasn't able to join, and the place I was at was entirely off grid. And so it was nice. It was very remote, 50 miles of dirt road before you get to where you're going. And it was a nice early fall visit to the mountains, about 6,600 feet. I think that's what, 1,900 meters, if I'm, roughly.
Yeah, something like that, I think.
Something like that. And it was nice. I got back this weekend, and I've been running around kind of crazy. So I'm glad I made the debates last night, which I have a feeling we'll be talking about tonight. And I'm good. And I was at the beach today and watched an incredible sunset. Um, Doing good.
Excellent. Good to hear. And Callista, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. You guys better be careful, every time you take a break, I take your place, and people are liking it because I'm just so gorgeous. I can't help it. And so, yeah, I'm glad to be part of this chat today. I'll just come in with one or two things. I'd like to just start off by saying that I thought James Woods gave a really good resume of the debate. He said President Trump and Chris Wallace had a debate, and there was some old guy muttering in the background.
Yeah, he was muttering in the background and foreground sometimes too.
Well, I think I think President Trump did a great job, quite honestly, because he brought up so many things that everybody's been wanting to talk about, and that's the Hunter Biden thing and the whole cocaine thing and the way he got kicked out of the Navy and Burisma, the Ukraine, China, the whole thing. And I think it was good that Trump took the opportunity, because he knew that it was going to be, an event that was going to be watched by everybody. And he brought everything out into the open. And of course, they didn't like it. And Chris Wallace did his job and tried to, shield Biden and all the rest of it. And Biden had his little microphone or whatever it was, and his wire hanging out of his lapel, and his all the rest of it. Anyway, you guys take it over. You know what's been happening too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think mostly we'll probably debate ourselves today about the debate and bring up some certain points like the two you just brought up. I'd like to find out more about that because, quite honestly, I haven't been online, so I didn't hear any of these allegations that he's wired and everything. So we'll talk more about that. But yeah, let's talk about the debate generally, first of all. I must admit I didn't get a chance to see it live last night because I was off doing things, and by the time I got back, it was almost finished. I think I got the last 15 minutes. But I did see it again today, so I do have a feel for it now. But I was surprised at how much Chris Wallace tried to put the president down and try to choke him off from saying everything, saying he was the one that was doing the most interruptions, when, quite honestly, I thought Biden interrupted Donald Trump more than the other way around. I was not impressed with Chris Wallace. I thought, well, this guy is politically motivated to support Biden there. And as for Biden, I thought he was the Rooter Cooter guy in the debate yesterday. I didn't hear Donald Trump say of Biden that he was an idiot or whatever. Well, he said he wasn't smart. Don't use that term with me, smart. You're not. But how about you guys? What did you think of the debate generally?
I saw it pretty much as you and Callista did. Chris Wallace was way out of line, but I guess that's to be expected. Even though Fox News is supposed to be better than the others, in this case, they were definitely not.
Well, he definitely was not. Definitely not.
Phil, did you
Phil.
hear the debate at all?
I did. I joined maybe 15 or 20 minutes into it because I noticed my phone going off, and friends were commenting play by play about the debate, and I said to my friend, "Well, I didn't know there was a debate tonight. We got to find a TV set." So I watched the rest of it, even though I was a bit distracted. I was doing a session on somebody. But I saw the rest of it live, and I saw all of the big moments. And I was very keen to see how they were going to spin it after the debate ended, because as I looked at it, and I'm going to be a contrarian here, I don't think President Trump did so well in that debate. I think he knew more than the average person going into that debate, that things were stacked against him. And I think he could have done a better job exposing that or taking it to his advantage, rather than continually interrupt and avoid direct questions that the moderator gave him. Now, Chris Wallace, yes, he's a consummate professional as journalists go, but he does lean left, and he did get rather testy for most of the debate with President Trump. So he was actually debating two people last night, to his credit. However, it never plays well to an audience who wants to see a discussion of differences between candidates so that they can make up their mind and have certain flaws in the opposing party's philosophy exposed. So when it devolves into a point where both candidates are ignoring the moderator, and look, Chris Wallace completely lost control of the debate, totally. And I noticed that that's being very underplayed. I didn't watch the news today, but as of last night in the aftermath, they were basically giving kudos to Chris Wallace for having to handle an impossible situation. But it was obvious that both candidates just did not respect him or the rules. So now there's all kinds of talk about how they're going to make the next debates different, like cutting off the mics. But I think President Trump could have exposed the weakness in the Democratic Party platform by showing letting Biden lose his cool. And he did. He was starting to do that, but he also interrupted. And so I don't know. I think Trump was smart enough to know he could have exposed it better without looking as he came across last night. And I think you're going to see a different President Trump and Biden on the next debate, because I think there'll be rule platforms changes to the debate platform.
But don't you think it's just all optics anyway. I think that Chris Wallace was put up to whatever he was doing. I think it was, I mean, Q has said to us before, the questions will be given to Biden. You know, it'll go that way.
When you
I
say
think
that,
yeah.
sorry to jump in. When you said the questions will be given to Biden, how do you mean that?
Well, the questions were given to Biden beforehand. He had all
That's
his answers
it.
written out. He had all
That's
his answers written out. He was reading them.
right.
And this is just showing the public what they can do. What they do. They lie and they cheat and all this sort of thing. I thought it was great. I enjoyed it. But I'm Australian. I'm a bit more brash than you guys.
Hey, I enjoyed it, and I'm Canadian. How about you, Bill?
Well, actually, I thought Trump went a little bit overboard a couple times, but I would rather see him do that than do the opposite. He got multiple points across loud and clear. And I think people certainly saw that Chris Wallace was on the opposite side.
Exactly.
What I thought was obvious too is that Chris Wallace applied one set of rules to Biden, but a different set of rules to Trump. After, at the very beginning, declaring they'd have 2 minutes each to say their thing, and 2 minutes afterwards to have an open discussion. And time again, I noticed that Wallace just completely cut off President Trump there from his 2 minutes of open discussion when he's trying to respond to a few things, and Chris Wallace just cut him right off and gave Biden an opportunity to chat sometimes, but I thought, wow, that's a bit obvious, isn't it? At least that's what I thought.
Yeah, it was obvious, and I think it was meant to be obvious so that people could see, how things were going. Yeah, just like, I mean, I watched the Comey thing as well, and if we can move on to the Comey thing.
Let's leave that for a moment. I wanted to still hit a couple of the salient points of the discussion, certain points like the issue of racism and everything. I certainly do want to know more about Comey because I didn't hear anything about that.
Sure.
But can we finish that part about the debate? Because there was one with the racism question, for example. And right after the debate, it went to CTV, which is Canadian TV, and or was it CBC? Doesn't matter. But there was this colored lady, and she was saying he didn't say anything against the white nationalists, and the first thing that Trump had said is that, hey, wait a minute, you got to look at this, and it was mostly Antifa and Black Lives Matters, and that's left wing. But they completely ignored him. This woman completely ignored him and just claimed he is a racist because he wouldn't say that the right wing, and the right wing has not been out there like the Antifa and the left wing has been.
Well, what they were trying to do, I think, is trying to get him to speak against the Proud Boys. And the Proud Boys are the ones that are actually standing by and standing down and waiting, because if Antifa go in there and do the wrong thing, the Proud Boys will step right in there. And Proud Boys, well, Antifa and BLM, they are scared of the Proud Boys. So go Proud Boys.
Okay, I've never heard of the Proud Boys before. I heard it mentioned since then, but who are they? Are they nationalists or what?
They're a group of right-wing guys who support President Trump, and they do not like Antifa or BLM.
Right. Okay.
I don't know whether does Bill or Phil know anything more about Proud Boys?
Only that they don't like people throwing bricks at the police, and they don't like people burning and looting stores, and
exactly.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I don't know that much about them at all. I thought they were, to tell you the truth, controlled opposition. In other words, they were both Soros funded. to make the right wing look bad and violent. But maybe you guys know more than I do. I really can't comment. I don't know about the Proud Boys. I've only heard about them through the mainstream media. And I know that when early in Trump's presidency, you had that driver drive his car through Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yeah, the guy that killed the woman, yeah, right.
Right.
Who was on drugs and medication, and I think was more than a little bit schizophrenic and paranoid.
But there was some arguing going on between pro and anti-Trump people at that rally, and it got revealed later that both sides had basically been pumped up and paid to get into skirmish with each other, so they could skew it towards, look, all of Trump supporters are racist, they're violent, they don't want freedom, et cetera, and that it was all basically a setup for optics. So I've seen lots of Antifa people and BLM people on the news giving their explanations, interviews, that kind of thing. I haven't heard anything about a group called Proud Boys doing interviews and having some sort of organization. I just don't know anything about them. Maybe Callista's right. I don't know enough to comment. But I have a feeling that the military or federal police are going to step in before any civilian patriot group will, if things get out of hand, because I think after the election, the gloves are off. It's going to be. I myself, I agree with Bill here on this, that things are going to get really nasty, bad, like the nation has never seen, leading up to, but then especially after the election, regardless of who wins. And I suspect Trump is going to win eventually, because no matter what the results, they will be contested. And at that point, if Trump is still in power and Nancy Pelosi hasn't pulled a hat trick or something, I think there's going to be a temporary stay-at-home order. You can call it martial law. And at that point, anyone on the street is a troublemaker, and they're going to be met with a very quick response by, I think, finally, the military. And after that, it's just going to be a domino effect of take no prisoners. So it's going to be a very interesting next few months after the election in American history. And I myself am preparing by getting many weeks' supply of water, meals ready to eat, supplements, medicine, anything that I might need if water goes out, power goes out, gas goes out. Drifting off topic, but we might get to it later in the chat, so I just thought I'd throw that in there.
Okay.
Wow, that sounds pretty serious.
Yes. However, there are certain people that I know who are in a position to know that this is what insiders are discussing among themselves at very high levels, and they would wish that peace-loving Americans, in this case, since it's an American election, would take heed with for their own safety, just as a precaution, especially if they live in any areas that are blue or Democrat, or urban that are in blue Democrat-run states. And this is where it is believed that riots and civil unrest will be at their greatest, but anything that's public, in terms of infrastructure that could affect wide swaths of population, where you take out a main gas line, a dam, a water supply, the electrical grid, anything like that could affect and inconvenience large segments of the population is apparently what they're most worried about. And so behind the scenes, there are actions being taken to safeguard that from happening, but they don't know when and where. So as a safety precaution, a person who lived in such an area might want to wonder, what would I do if I can't get gas on my stove to cook, or electricity to heat my house, or see, maybe I want batteries, flashlights, maybe I want meals that are ready to eat and require very little energy until infrastructure gets back up. And in my personal experience, what I was told was I might want to look very strongly at that in my particular situation. And my situation is I live in California. I live in the South, and a part of the state right now, and we're dealing with an unprecedented situation in world history, not just American history, and there are no rules any longer. It's we can see it. We can see it building. I don't know if Cosmic Awareness has talked about it yet, but we got about a month until the election, and I know that in speaking to some people at grocery stores lately, they have noticed a large number of people increasingly coming in buying supplies, huge amounts of supplies, water, canned goods, water, toilet paper, medicine, over-the-counter stuff, just inordinate amounts, and they're just preparing. So,
Well, I feel like I'm living on a different planet.
Me too.
I can
I really
imagine.
do. Yeah, I really do. The planet of Callista is peaceful and calm. How about you, Bill?
Well, I anticipate probably staying home mostly and being peaceful and calm mostly. But I, for years, have had supplies of food and water and firewood. If we lose our electric power, we're going into winter, and firewood will come in really handy. So I'm prepared, but I'm not worried about it.
Way to go, Bill.
Yeah, and I can't say up here in Canada that we're particularly worried. They're driving the COVID virus thing, and they're preparing everyone for the second wave. And supposedly Ontario and Quebec are already having a second wave. And I mean, all these cases are happening, but nobody's dying. But hey, everybody, it's second wave. That seems to be more the focus. And then we watch down in the States with the antics that are going down there, but it's not directly affecting us up here yet. It would affect us very much if, when all the truth comes out of the different corruptions, including the Canadian corruption up here. But right now, most of the attention is still on COVID more than anything else.
Well,
And
you
they're
probably
not
got a lot of
saying
tunnels and underground facilities that have to be taken care of up there yet.
probably, I think so. Supposedly under Calgary here, there's lots of tunnels and caverns and things, as we've heard. But that's on the side. So no, we're not into it. But that's very interesting what you're saying, Phil, because of course, on one level, just going metaphysical for a moment, if we're creator beings, we also have to be very careful about how we expand our energies and in what directions. Now, I think it's a little bit like that Arabic phrase or that Arabic thing that said, trust in Allah, but tie up the camel. In other words, Bill, you've got the right of it. Just have the preparedness. And Phil, you too, having to prepare yourself, because we don't know what's going to happen. But at the same time, it's a delicate balancing act of not going too much into the fear and the negative beliefs of this horrendous thing, but being prepared for contingencies so that we can still create in our own reality a life and an experience that isn't as extreme, but you might be observing those around you. It might be happening all around you. In other words, put yourself in the eye of the hurricane. There may be a tempest swirling around you, but basically in each of our lives, we've got to find that peacefulness and serenity Callista just mentioned for that to be our personal experience, not just at the beck and call of those energies that would have us in absolute turmoil and chaos. So that's just the thought, kind of putting a little bit of metaphysical spin on it.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because if I came across as this is a for certain prediction and this is going to happen, that's not what I meant to imply. But there are people that I understand in the military in very high positions that are anticipating. It's their job to be prepared, and so they are looking at all possible angles at things, and so being prepared is one thing. Preparing out of fear is another. I did not mean to imply people should go into fear and start hoarding guns and bullets and things like that. But you bring up a good point that as creator beings in the collective, we have the capability to project what Callista just called the peaceful world of Callista. We can hold that things transition smoothly with a minimum of disruption, and allow the forces that are prepared for this and are equipped to prepare for any kind of unrest to do their job, and hold that we have a peaceful, smooth transition. And that's certainly what I'm going to do. And I know most of the listeners that follow Rainbow Phoenix, your group, anyone who's listening to this, do as well, because I think a lot of people underestimate the power of the collective, especially as we begin to awaken that we have tremendous creative potential. But like the Quran says, trust Allah, but tie up your camels. So I think there's wisdom in being prepared, but not going and doing so out of fear because you've given away your power and think there's nothing that can be done. This is where I think the civilian world that isn't involved in army and military and intelligence tactics can actually help them by praying or holding or envisioning the outcome that they wish to live in. Dreaming the new dream from your heart.
Mm.
I just
Yeah,
wanted
that's
to
right. And
clarify that.
it's yeah, that's great. No, that's all right, Phil, because you have to be prepared for the worst. That's the whole thing. I mean, even living where I live, where everything's beautiful most of the time, I still have food extra food in the cupboard, and extra this, extra that, whatever I need to do. I've always got the car filled up with fuel, and it's just the sort of thing that you sort of do on a daily basis anyway. Everyone should be doing that, having enough food to last them for a couple of weeks at least, and a decent water supply, and all that sort of thing. That's what you'd be doing if you didn't have the government to look after you. So just carry on. It's all about taking responsibility for your own welfare, I think, and a lot of what's happening on the world today is surely teaching people that this is how they need to be. They need to look after themselves and be sovereign beings, create your own realities.
You're here.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Exactly. And even cosmic awareness in the past has said that it is always prudent to have some extra supplies on hand. Here in Canada, especially in the winter, you could get hit by a real bad snowstorm, a blizzard, and it could snow everybody in, and you might be stuck in houses or not be able to travel much because of the snow. And it is prudent to have some extra supplies in for a week or two. Now, I think I've heard up to 3 weeks. You should always have at least 3 weeks preparedness. But even if it's 1 week, to have that little extra. So awareness is not saying disregard that common sense approach to be able to have supplies in the event that some event happened. Down there in Texas, as you were saying, Bill, it's really a good idea to have that extra firewood for those cold winter nights. Who knows if you're blocked in for a while? I don't know if you get snow in the hills where you are.
Very
not,
little.
But
very little.
Very little. But there's other reasons, so it's always prudent. But at the same time, here's the delicate balancing act. Not to go too deep into the fear part of it, where it's like, oh my God, got to get more toilet paper. As happened with the pandemic here. And it just makes common sense.
So obviously this is a topic that's very important at the moment because we've been talking about it for quite a while now. And so we're actually putting it out there and saying to people, look, just be aware. And so I think that's good because it's important to pass on information and and a sense of what's happening in the collective or what could happen, so that people can be prepared. And this is what we do. We're putting it out there. We're only putting it out to a few hundred people, but it's, you know, it's important. And so I think that we can be sure that we've fulfilled our obligation to do that. So
Right. At the
you want to
same
move on?
time, I will in a minute, yes, because I just wanted to end by saying I just hold it's all going to work out. I'm of the opinion, as Bill is, as you've said it, Bill, before, this has already been worked out. Those who are in the know have told us, just, you know, sit back and enjoy the show, get the popcorn and all that. So I do know that it is prudent, as said, to have some degree of preparedness, but also not to go into any blind panic over it, and just hold that this too shall pass, and we'll get through this, and whatever's coming, if we're in the eye of the hurricane, it's a lot more comfortable in there than in the twirling, whirling energies that are spinning around the eye of the hurricane.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Any last thought before, as you say, we move on?
Nope.
Well, certainly we do create our own reality. And I agree with pretty much with everything that's just been said. But on the other hand, in the sense of tying down the camel, if I lived in a place like New York City or even Southern California, sorry, Phil, I would seriously consider going somewhere else for a while.
Yeah. Well, there's always Lake Tahoe, Phil.
That's true. But what Bill just said, I was literally told almost verbatim about 4 days ago. And you might understand who I'm talking about. So, again, these are blue areas, and not to be in fear. And we're finding out here in California, just so you guys know, there's a huge pro-Trump population here. It's not as libturdia as you think. That's media. That's politicians squawking on the controlled mainstream local news and broadcast throughout the rest of the world, or at least the United States. There's a large base of Trump supporters here that are going to be making themselves more and more known. There's Trump rallies almost every week and every weekend here somewhere where I live. There's a big one I'm going to this weekend on the beach. And so it's becoming more and more safe for like-minded people or average people who just want the corruption to end and can see that, you know, regardless of how unconventional this president is, isn't that what we wanted? Someone who just spoke plainly, in this case, a New Yorker, but he wasn't trying to bullshit people and use rhetoric and sound bites that, you know, you repeat a lie often enough, people believe it. This is, I think people are starting to see the contrast between someone who is speaking unscripted and honestly and speaking what the rest of the nation wants to say but isn't, and someone that is still going by the old what's the word I'm looking for, the old script that no longer works. And people are starting to see the contrast between the very corrupted Democratic Party and a very unconventional right-wing politician who's come in to actually clean up a systemic corruption in the United States government. And it's a really wild, crazy time, and we all have front row seats to it. I was told that in the next several years, I don't know how many years into the future, it will be known when they look back on this time as the crazy years. That's what it will be known as. We've seen nothing but crazy for the last 4 or 5 years, arguably more, but it's really gotten absurd since President Trump got elected. And it's going to be very smoothed out rather quickly after inauguration of next year, you know, about 4 more months, 3 months, 4 months, whatever that is. And yeah, I'm done.
Well, okay. That actually brings me to the point, going back now to discussing Biden and the earphone and everything. I did not know anything of that. I haven't heard anything, but I did want to just talk about that for a moment. Now, Callista, you had that information. You want to share with us?
Yeah, sure. I was on Parler during the debate. Well, the debate was on because I watched it live. And I was also going through 8kun, going through the boards and just picking stuff off their memes and all sorts of things. And that's where, as you know, if you're ever on the boards, the Anons always pick things up before everybody else. And I could see that they'd just taken, stills from the debate video. And it was quite clear that Biden had a wire underneath his right lapel, and that he also had something wired to his left inside wrist. And there was also the question of the different colour of his eyes. So he might have had some sort of optic thing happening there as well. I don't really understand it all, but it's got some special name. And so I was busy as the debate was going on, pulling stuff off the boards and putting it onto my Parler account, and people were really responding to it. I think I picked up 500 followers last night just during the debate, because they were interested in what was being put out. And I'm only a small person on social media. I'm only on Parler, and so it certainly got a lot of interest from those who were watching carefully. Yep, that's for sure. And also, it was quite obvious that Biden was reading from script. He was actually looking down onto the podium, and at the end of the debate, he was shoving all these papers into his inside pocket. So he had it all written out. It was all there. But did you notice that at all, Bill?
Yes, everything that you said. Now, I was watching his ears also, and I think Phil said earlier that his right ear was never clearly shown by the camera, but I never could see anything in his ears.
Yeah, they picked that up on the boards as well. That there was. It looked like the right ear was completely sort of filled in, so there was something in his ear. Have you got any info on that, Phil?
Well, I can say that last night in a discussion that I was not a part of, but was happening, in front of me, that even as the debate was going on, people that were in a either medical or military position to know were already saying that Biden was receiving answers and advanced comebacks to anything that Trump said, and that he was wired up, quote unquote. And this was being discussed as it became apparent last night. Now, I wasn't looking for those things last night, but when I became aware of the conversation that occurred in real time, they were spotting it. Of course, they were trained to do so. And the medical friend that I have was speaking about the color of his eyes, the look in his eyes, the stuttering and other speech impediments that Vice President Biden was exhibiting. And as a doctor, she was saying he's showing signs of early Parkinson's. To which the person in the military kindly disagreed and said the darkness in his eyes is due to demonic possession. And he reiterated that he was in a position to know because he has seen it before, and the look in his eyes was exactly the same. Of course, that's unprovable, but once you've had enough personal experiences in a certain area, you can spot things, especially if that's your training. So here we have two people watching live the debate, and they're already noticing that the right side of his head is almost never shown by camera angles. So you only see the face or the left side. And you're seeing the way he was shuffling papers and this sort of thing. But his answers, I'm talking about Joe Biden here, his answers were too slick, too prepared, too fast for the average Joe Biden. I've never seen him more on his feet. So for people who observe people for a living in terms of mannerisms and their intuitions and this sort of thing, he stuck out like a sore thumb last night. The first thing the person I was with last night said when we were watching the debate, the first thing when the camera came on, she said, "Oh my God, look at his eyes. There's nothing but evil there. Look at that. Look at that. Those aren't his eye colors. Look." This is a person who just instantly turned on the TV and said, "That's creepy. There's evil in those eyes." So it's very interesting that this military person would also say that last night and point out the fact that something's going on in the right ear. And today I'm seeing close-up pictures where maybe it was before the debate, maybe after, but still photographs showed that it looked like there was some sort of, there's a word for it, but if you were to plaster something in someone's ear and try and make it look natural, is it prosthetics? You know, same skin color, same tone, they smooth it over with makeup or whatever so it doesn't look obvious. That was that kind of thing going on. And I think what's going to be very interesting in the second debate is now everybody in alternative media is going to be watching Joe Biden's cufflinks, his right or left ear, his eyes, and any wires that protrude. I guarantee you they won't make that mistake twice, but it's going to be a very different second debate and third debate, I think.
That's interesting.
Yeah, there was something else as well that I remember now. Apparently, the very first thing that Joe Biden said on that podium was "good luck." Chris Wallace greeted everyone and he said "good luck." And that's exactly what the person on the other end of his microphone in his ear said to Joe Biden.
I thought that's a strange thing for him to say, "good luck." To who? To Trump? To Chris Wallace? But if he was just repeating
he was
what
repeating.
Heard,
yeah, he was repeating what he heard.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, as you guys know, since I can't really see the screen, I couldn't see any of these clues or anything else. But what I was struck with is how often he would depart away from the actual question and start throwing at Trump all this other stuff. It's almost like he is being told, and say this about him, and say this, and mention that. And this actually explains where that was coming from. You know, because he didn't stay on track more than once.
He also seemed to me to be very energetic too. I think he was unnaturally energetic. So we've got to take into the thought that maybe he was given some sort of enhancement drug-wise.
Oh, most definitely. Because Donald Trump, even before the debate, said he thought it might be a good idea if they were both tested for any substance in the system, which
and
of course didn't go down.
No, Biden camp said no. And Trump also wanted to have ears tested as well, and they said no about that. So anyway,
it's interesting. My doctor friend last night was texting that he appeared to be under the influence of, well, she didn't know which one, but she brought out the names of 2 or 3 drugs that would give the kind of performance enhancement and side effects that were shown last night on TV with Joe Biden. And she said the thing is, those same drugs are often given in early dementia people, and that Parkinson's dementia is one of the symptoms of early Parkinson's. So there's people who are trained out there that are medical professionals who also watch those debates. It's very reasonable for me to assume that they were watching and seeing the same things last night, and given their professional expertise with seeing patients with similar symptoms and signs, that kind of speculation is going to start going about. I'm wondering if it's going to be what allows Joe Biden to take a exit, leaving Kamala Harris to name a new running mate by the name of Michelle. Sorry, but I'm just wondering, because it's almost becoming so obvious that it's going to become an embarrassment for the Democratic Party. And I think something is going to be done as a last minute bait and switch, the old switcheroo, as Dave at X22 report says.
Actually, it's interesting you should be talking about that, because that was one of the questions I was going to pose to you guys, that given his performance, and let's disregard anything that we just said about implants and drugs and all of that, Joe normal viewer watching the debate would not necessarily have any kind of expertise on the subject, and would have only observed a character, Joe Biden, who to them may have seemed like he was in control and no hint of dementia. We might be able to see the shadow of it, as you just explained, Phil. But for most people, they wouldn't have seen Joe Biden as having dementia. And of course, the argument is that no, he's normal, no problem. So do you guys think that that also may have been part of the goal, is to make people think that Joe Biden is not only normal, but he's feisty and ready to go and spitting brimstone and fire out and up his ass and all that shit too?
Well, I think it's interesting that for a long time, no one has seen Joe Biden. No one has seen Joe Biden. He's been in his basement or somewhere. So what's been happening? What's been happening with Joe Biden all that time? Are we looking at the real Joe Biden? I mean, who is Joe Biden?
Well, if he was physically enhanced and chemically propped up and everything, maybe it is a Joe Biden. Phil, you said that your friend mentioned that, no, it seemed to him that this was the real deal here. But if he was all hyped up and hooped up and everything. But do you guys think that the majority of people who have no understanding of this may think that, oh no, he's normal, he's not under any form of dementia?
I think he is. I think he's under piles of it. And one of the things that my doctor friend had commented on was, she was wondering if he was showing the effects on stage last night of dextroamphetamine, which she says is sometimes used to treat Parkinson's. So she was asking us to watch whether, when he moves off stage at the end of the debates, whether he swings his arm or not. And it was noticed that his wife grabbed his arm. So it prevent people from seeing of early Parkinson's or the side effects of this drug. He certainly was more chipper than I've ever seen last night. Certainly more than the campaign trail, when he seemed to have gaffes every time he went to a microphone. So, like Callista said, where's he been? They made a comment about Trump going to the bunker, but where's Sleepy Joe been the past several months? Has he been altered, trained? Is he being coached and ready to? I mean, how do you push an early Parkinson's person or dementia person out on stage to debate Trump? Well, you start calling him names and turn it into chaos.
And he certainly has not been having the mass rallies. I mean, Trump did make a bit of a joke about him getting 5 people or something, where Trump's getting 15,000 at the airport drop-ins. Or drop-in rallies, what would you call them, where he just shows up and people are there?
Yeah, they're the tarmac rallies.
Didn't you notice he brought it up last night on how big his rallies are, and no one goes to his, and Chris Wallace began to shut him up right away.
He did. And
so he had to debate 2 people. I mean, 2 sides last night, the media and the left.
Right.
I think all in all, despite the fact my criticizing President Trump that he could have used the planned chaos to his advantage better, I think he did a great job at holding his composure and temper, because if even half the stuff we're reading about the left is true, and Trump knows this as a fully briefed president, he's showing remarkable restraint already, except like Callista said, the public, or no, what you said, public doesn't know any of this. They're just Joe Blow trying to make an election decision or watch some entertaining TV because you knew it was going to be entertaining. American politics is nothing but entertainment for the rest of the world because it's unbelievably absurd. Always has been, but it's to new heights now. I mean, God.
Absolutely. Now, Bill, we haven't heard from you on this.
That's because I got disconnected and found my way back. I missed a bit of that.
Okay.
As far as the debate goes, I think it was very one-sided with Trump against Chris Wallace and Biden both. But on the whole, even though Trump got a little excited at points, I think he did a fine job of holding up his end of it.
I think so. Absolutely. Well, it was debate one. Now, fill me in, guys. I know there's supposed to be 3 debates. Is that 3 debates between Biden and Trump, or is it 2 debates between them? And I know next week it's the vice president and the vice president candidate, Harris. Anyway, any thoughts about those 2? I'm looking forward to that debate myself.
Well, that'll be interesting, but I never, ever expected Joe Biden to show up for a debate. I thought they'd provide him with an accident or something and have a new candidate. But that was very...
I know Dave on X22 was saying, oh, you watch, if there's anything wrong or they don't feel they can go ahead with it, they'll come up with some excuse for canceling it at the last moment or something. But that didn't seem to be the case. I think they thought, this being the Democrat Party thought, or Biden's Democratic campaign people, thought he was ready to go for certain reasons already discussed, you know?
Well, part of that might also be the early announcement that Ruth Bader Ginsburg had, quote unquote, passed away. I think that probably threw the Democratic National Committee out of their plan, because it was my understanding that, I could be wrong, but the state funeral for her was supposed to take place at the same time as last night's debate. And if it was prematurely announced, because maybe someone made a mistake and reported something they shouldn't have, it would have thrown their plan awry, and maybe Biden was forced to debate. I don't know if that's true, because I think he was too prepared last night. If he was wired in the right ear with wires coming out of his lapel and some kind of microphone in his cuff, near his cufflink, and he was feisty and very combative last night, he was too coached, too prepared. So I don't know if that's true, but I agree that the safest thing for the Democrats to do right now is to not have Joe Biden debate at all. And I think they're really worried about the next debate coming up, because I believe President Trump learned a lot by what they brought to the table on the first debate. And if there's new rules that promote order in the next debate, I'd be very curious to see how the moderator handles it, and how Trump handles any perceived cutting of his time or the disallowance to respond to absurdities brought in his direction, because he didn't like standing quiet for things that were being falsified about him.
And that's fair enough too, I reckon. But the thing is Chris Wallace going to be the moderator next time, because he didn't do a very good job this time?
I don't believe so. Yeah, he did, totally. I think they have a different moderator each time. I don't know who they are.
That's tradition, though, isn't it? That they have different moderators each time. So, actually, you brought up a point just there, Ginsburg, and the nomination of Abby Connie Barrett, I think it is. Yeah, Barrett. So, any thoughts on that? Because, of course, the Democrats have jumped on that one, that Trump can't do that and he has to wait. And it was the bedside wish of her that only a new president should put in a new nomination, which is bogus because, as I understand it, it is the obligation of the president to nominate, once a Supreme Justice goes down, someone else. Not normally, of course, with the speed of this nomination, but it is still his obligation, his presidential duty, to nominate a candidate. And
well, it is just a nomination after all, and I understand that the Democrats are saying they don't want to sit and look at this nomination until after the election. But the Republicans are saying, well, yes, and the senators saying, yes, we will do this, before the election. I've just lost Will off the screen, guys. So
I'm still here. Can you hear me?
oh, it must be Bill that's gone. Sorry.
Oh, okay,
Yep.
I'm here.
Yep. Okay. So
Bill's
anyway,
probably
yeah,
having problems. Yeah.
he's been on and off for a while. So anyway, he's off at the moment. So what do you reckon, Phil? What about this Amy Coney Barrett?
I don't know that much about her, but when I saw her accepting the congratulations of the president, I saw that she's fairly young. So this is a person that, if the traditional rule that a Supreme Court justice serves for life, she's going to be on the Supreme Court for decades, number one. So that will make the corrupt Democrats brick their knickers right there.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, now you're starting to see I don't know if it's a bill they want to introduce into the legislature, or there's talk now among the Democrats that they want to limit the term of service that a Supreme Court justice does to 18 years, and also increase the number of members, maybe increasing it from the current 9 to 11 or 13 or 15, so that someone like Trump doesn't come along again and in a short period of time gain majority. There's another reason I think that they're introducing this nominee at this time, and that is because I think everyone knows by now that no matter what the election result actually is, both sides are going to claim victory. Both sides are going to claim fraud. Both sides are going to say we need transparency, and the election is going to immediate dispute. It has to, because Democrats have no choice now. Even after the October surprises, which are going to come and are devastating, from what I've been told, devastating. Game over devastating. You're still going to have the mainstream media and the Biden camp or Harris camp or Big Mike camp, whoever's running the show from behind the scenes, claiming that the election was called for Biden or whoever the candidate is, and we're waiting for Trump to concede at 3:00 in the afternoon while polls are still open in the West, et cetera, et cetera. And when that doesn't happen, the circus begins. So if it gets decided in the courts, the majority of the Supreme Court justices' leanings, political leanings, becomes a factor. So right now, there's only 8 justices. And when you consider that 3 are liberal, 4 are liberal, 4 are supposedly conservative, but the Chief Justice is actually, I think, left-leaning. So he could easily vote in the Democratic side of things as Chief Justice, and you'd actually have a what is that? What is that? 5-3, a 5-3 decision. So they do not want this Chief Justice nominee, Amy, coming in before the election to have one of her first duties become deciding a disputed election. Because if the Chief Justice is actually a sleeper, and many people for years have said he is, and that he's blackmailed, and et cetera, then having this nominee situated before that crucial vote by the Supreme Court would help safeguard a Trump victory. So they do not want her nominated before the election at all costs. What I've been told is that the nomination process will continue up to the election, but they will not vote on her until after the election. But she will get in. But the actual vote will come after the election.
Well, we'll see on that one.
Yeah,
because I've heard that argument raised about having her there to cast a deciding vote. So we'll see on that.
So, Bill, we notice you're back on again. Did you want to make a comment about Amy Coney Barrett?
Only that the sooner she gets on the court, the better it will be. I have never had so much trouble getting repeatedly kicked off before. I don't know if somebody doesn't want me talking or what.
Well, at least you can find your way back. That's the good thing.
Yeah, I've tried it with my VPN and without, and both ways I get kicked off. So I don't know.
Strange.
I have a question. You guys talked earlier when we first began about this Comey hearing. Not to change the subject off the Supreme Court, but I don't know that much about it for the past few days. But everyone is talking about it, and I haven't had a chance to read it or hear about what's going on in any depth. Do you guys know?
Well, thanks, Phil, for bringing that up, because that was something we did want to talk on. And Callista, you've got that information you want to share.
Well, I only watched it, that's all. I watched bits and pieces of it today after the event because it was pretty late last night, my time. Basically, he doesn't know anything and he wasn't told anything and he's not responsible for anything. And this comes from a man who was supposed to have been head of the FBI or whatever it is. And he's written 2 books, one of which has been published and the other one's going to be published soon. I don't know what he's got in his books if he doesn't know anything and he can't remember anything. And I don't know how a man like that, who clearly has no ability to retain anything at all in his head, got to be head of the FBI in America. I mean, this is supposed to be the most powerful nation on the planet, and the FBI is supposed to be one of the most powerful organizations in America. So what's this idiot doing being head of the FBI? To me, it's just it's incomprehensible.
Well, what I find really funny is that he's saying he's innocent by reason of incompetence. It's like he's so incompetent that he didn't do nothing. So
well, that's a nice try, but it won't work.
No. Someone sent me today a 4-hour video. I don't know if you guys have seen it. I haven't. It's 4 hours long. I haven't seen it yet. But apparently it is the hearing of Comey under questioning. Maybe that's what you're referring to, Callista? Yeah,
that's right. That's the one. Yeah, it's.
Okay.
I put it on. I changed the speed to 1.5 or something like that because it just drones on and on and on. I thought Lindsey Graham was quite good. He tried to bring some stuff in, and quite a few of the others did too, especially the Republicans. But he just constantly said he wasn't sure, he didn't know, not to his knowledge, I didn't know anything about that. Well, you're not putting the question correctly, or it's just like, this guy is so slippery. Something has to be done about it. And as Lindsey Graham said at the end, he was afraid that people down the line were going to be blamed for something that someone at the top should have been charged with, because they're going to go right down the line now. They're going to go on to the next ones down the line and question them, and Comey just slipped right through.
Well, he did that before, several years ago, when Devin Nunes was in charge of the Oversight Intelligence Committee, and they summoned Comey at that time. And that's what, 3 years ago? Or 2 years ago, certainly. And he did the same thing then. I didn't know, I wasn't aware. He got away with it then, and maybe he thinks he's going to get away with it now. But what about Durham? When is any of that ever going to come out? That would maybe arrest the man for his crimes.
Well, what do you think, Phil?
I don't know. I do know that very soon, from what I've been told by Little Bird, that there's going to be a D-class of some information or files made available to the public that is going to blow the whole Russia collusion narrative bye-bye. Like, not even subject to interpretation, bye-bye. This may be what starts to make Comey look like an idiot and a liar. And what that's going to reveal and what's in it, I don't know. But apparently it is probably one of the, I would imagine, one of several October surprises that are coming in time for the voters to know about before they go to the polls.
And
Bill,
of
what do
course,
you reckon?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just giving Bill a chance to say something.
Yeah, no, good. That's fine. If he's still with us.
Well, Comey can forget or not remember as much as he wants to, but when the evidence comes out, it won't matter.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? You know, they have it all. The NSA have got it all. I mean, Q keeps telling us we have it all. And I really think that, as you said, Phil, they're setting Comey up because he's going to be proved to be wrong later on down the track. And I think it's like a net that's closing in, and there's all these aspects of the net that are slowly getting tighter and tighter and closer and closer. And we're going to see all these things from Durham and all the other people that are involved here all coming in, and it's just going to get tighter and tighter and tighter, so they just can't get out. I think that's what's going to happen in October.
It may well do. I'm having a thought memory of the first Star Wars movie where they got dumped into this garbage pit and the walls started coming in, and they stopped it in the end. But it's like they were going to be squeezed to death in all the garbage, and maybe these people are going to be squeezed into the garbage and come out as slurry.
Well, yeah, well, there's a lot in those Star Wars movies that are true.
Yes, exactly, especially the ancient history of the galaxy.
But we digress.
That's different. Pardon me? We digress. Yes, okay, I got that. Okay, guys, how are we doing for energy levels and what is left to be discussed? Any thoughts about any last piece you want to bring up before we call it a night?
Well, we've been talking for an hour, so just to give you a heads up about that.
Yeah, and that feels to me like a good time. There might be a few extras here. Anything in Australia that's going down at the moment, or is it pretty much norm?
Well, it's peace and quiet, full on the planet of Callista.
Okay. I wondered how Melbourne was going in Victoria and all that.
I've got no idea. I just know they're going to be locked down for as long as it takes to clear everything out from under the ground.
Right.
Just like everywhere else.
Some deep underground caverns under Melbourne, as we've been told, and two train tunnels and all that.
In the meantime, everyone just carries on, you know, as normal and makes the best of everything. I mean, Australians tend to just carry on and do their own thing anyway, so that's what we do.
That's what you do down under. How about you guys? You two have any other thoughts of anything you want to mention before we call it a day?
Well, today is October 1st in Texas now, and I'm just looking forward to October surprises that have been planned for quite a long time.
Right.
And the word that I get is that the good guys are ahead of the plan or ahead of the schedule.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Yeah. Phil, any last thoughts on your part?
Sure. I would agree with Bill. I have also heard that the plan is ahead of schedule and that morale is running high in those quarters that monitor the plan. And at the same time, I think it was really important what we discussed earlier in terms of listeners, that they have a direct hand in this, and that is to do what Callista's doing and make and hold the intention that all is calm in your personal sphere, in your personal world. This is how we help the plan. This is how we bring integrity and the lack of corruption back into our reality, by remembering that we're creator beings and that we have to look beyond the surface apparency of the news reports and the debates and all the things that look like drama. If we lose sight of the fact that we're creator beings, we lose sight of the fact that we can help steer the kind of planet and world that we wish to create. So I just wanted to remind everyone, because I have to remind myself of this. You know, I'm one of the worst offenders. I get all worked up. Like last night, oh, should have seen me. I get worked up. So I have to come back to planet Earth and ground and remember I'm a creator being, and that we're just watching a show. The outcome is already determined. But in terms of those nuances where our collective free will and our creative ability have any effect, I think it's important to remind ourselves that we still can contribute to the Great Awakening and the draining of the swamp by holding that reality that we wish to see when it's all over. And on that, I'm complete for the night.
Good, thanks. And Callista, how about you?
Yep, I'm very happy with our little conversation, and I hope that it's been helpful to people. Like you, Phil, I mean, I have my moments, don't worry, where I'm, screaming at the moon or whatever and saying, well, why can't all this be over? But ultimately, we have our own environment, and if we're sovereign beings, well, then we can control that to some degree. So, but it is difficult right now. There's a full moon happening and a lot of, strange energies around and all that sort of thing. But it's just a heads up, I think, for what's going to be happening for the rest of the month. And we just need to sit tight and say, okay, well, all that's going on out there, but what's going on in here with me, and I can control that. It's all about being able to manage what you can, and what you can't manage, just let it go. I think that's all we can do.
Good.
And to that extent, we can't be manipulated. When you're that calm and present, their little ploys won't work, and we stay in the eye of the hurricane, right, Bill or Will?
Yeah, I'd say correct to that. I would add, well, you've actually already mentioned it, Phil, that it's very important to realize and remember this is a done deal. Okay, the details are being filled in here, and the optics are progressing, and the drama is happening. But we already do know, from what we've heard through different sources, including cosmic awareness, that this plan is designated as that which is to be terminated, the plan of the past I'm talking about, so that the new bigger plan can be initiated. And that's already underway, and that's already been accomplished. If we understand the concept of simultaneous time, we're just kind of filling in time here, making our way forward to something that's already happened. And maybe that's how we have to hold it. It's already happened, and I can imagine a different world where these people are brought down who have been so corrupt and so evil for so long, because it is no longer the divine source's intent and or desire to have this as the mainstream reality of this planet. So I just kind of have to try to remember that as I get on from day to day with the personal frustrations or the personal achievements of preparing a new home for myself. And as you said, Callista, I'm going to focus on that and get through these energies, observing them, staying in sacred neutrality, but also knowing that if I need to act because my sense of morals is in need of expressing myself, like in a protest march against masks and things. I don't know. I'll do that if that's what I desire, but mostly holding the space, holding the point, holding that concept of this has happened. So let's just see how it all works out. It's all a show in the end, and I would like it to be an entertaining show, which is proving to be in many ways. Anyway, that's my last thought on the matter tonight.
Yeah, I would like to just say, in alignment with that, that regardless of how dark it may appear at times, keep in mind the bottom line of all of this is God wins.
God wins. And we're gods. And we're spirits. And we're divine in our nature. So yes, you're right. God wins. We win. And we are now moving officially into October. Bill, you just slipped into it. And then now, less than an hour's time, it'll be midnight here until an hour afterwards. And Callista, you're already into it. So what can one say? But
I'm halfway through it already.
Beg your pardon?
I'm halfway through the 1st of October already. But
yeah,
yeah, what you guys are saying is completely correct. And I think one thing that helps me is to know that I am actually creating a new world for myself, just like we're all creating new worlds and new lives. And how do you want that to look? And if you look at, how do you want this new world to look? And what does that mean for you? And just work towards that. And you can't go wrong. So, yeah. Anyway.
Very good. That's excellent. Excellent. And this is the month of October. One last month before the election and a few days afterwards. It's going to be high potency, I think. So hang on to your hats and say Yahoo a lot. Yahoo!
Yeah, I look forward to meeting with you guys same time next week, if that's okay with you, and we'll see what else we have to talk about, eh?
Absolutely. Who knows what's going to happen in a week's time, eh?
Really, especially now.
Well, thanks, Will. Thanks, Phil. Thanks, Bill. And we'll see you all next week.
And thanks, Callista. It's been a good chat. And adios, guys. We'll do this again next week.
Namaste to all.
Same here. Bye, everybody.